The INDYCAR Series is a long way from home, but the importance of the penultimate race of the 2009 series can't be overstated. At Twin Ring Motegi in Japan, someone will take another major step toward winning the 2009 title.
In 15 races this season, the points lead has changed 13 times. The current points leader is Ryan Briscoe, who has fought his way back to the top by winning the last two ovals in two of the closest finishes in history.
Briscoe to the high side, hit the cameras out for a photo finish. Briscoe got him!
Briscoe has the advantage and he gets the win.
Oh, man!
A win here in Japan could all but confirm this Team Penske driver his first coronation as champion. But Briscoe will have to outlast his Ganassi rivals, Dario Franchitti and Scott Dixon, the last two IndyCar Series champions. Can the land of the rising sun determine history for IndyCar racing's rising star?
Built on the top of a mountain northeast of Tokyo, Twin Ring Motegi's mile-and-a-half egg-shaped oval with 10 degrees of banking is the challenge today for 23 of IndyCar's finest. The series was last here in April of 2008, and history was made when Danica Patrick scored her first and so far only series victory. This year, with the race in September, it will carry major implications in the championship. The contenders are Scott Dixon, who has won the pole for today's race and earned an important bonus point. Teammate Dario Franchitti is second in points. He won the championship 2 years ago. They're all chasing Ryan Briscoe, the winner of the last two oval track races, and given the right circumstances, could clinch the title today. Welcome to IndyCar Central on Versus, just ahead of the start of the Indy Japan 300. I'm Bob Jenkins with Robbie Buell and Jan Beekes in the booth and Jack Arute down on pit lane. Ryan Briscoe, with a 25-point lead in the standings, will start fourth in today's race and certainly doesn't appear to be bothered by the pressure of winning a championship. Since the Indy 500 in May, Ryan has finished first or second in 9 of the 11 races. He's won the last two oval track events at Kentucky and Chicagoland, two of the closest finishes in series history.
Team Penske, if they go nose to tail, they might be able to pull it off. Oh! There goes your wingman.
Way up high. Carpenter will not give up.
Briscoe doesn't have any overtake button pushes left. Carpenter has two.
Wheel to wheel off of corner 4 at the line. It's going to be Briscoe. 1.5 miles at Chicagoland Speedway. 13 cars are on the lead lap, and they're all running within 0.6 of a second. Briscoe edges ahead. They come down for the white flag.
And Briscoe's using the last push.
Ryan leads by a foot.
He's getting help from Mariah.
Here comes the win, and who is it going to be?
Briscoe!
Briscoe has the advantage, and he gets the win. 0.008 of a second.
Ryan, you come into this race with a sizable lead, but the big question is, how do you leave this race with a similar lead?
Well, I think the only way is to try to beat the two Ganassi cars. It's going to be tough. I mean, they've been very fast in practice and qualifying. Scott's qualifying run was unbelievable, so he's going to be hard to beat today. But it's a long race. I feel like I've got a good race car, and love this place, Motegi. So hopefully we have a good one and come out in front.
When you are leading in the points, and if it came down to the short strokes of this race where you had to take a chance to win, what would the decision be by Ryan Briscoe?
Well, if I can see I've got a shot at winning, I'm going to take it because it's just so valuable, and 25 points really isn't much. So I think all three of us here are racing for the win, and I've got to take it just as much as they do.
Now, your wingman, Helio Castroneves, crashed during qualifying, so it's going to take a while for him to get there if you hope to use him Have you all talked about maybe being able to work together a little bit against that target tandem?
Well, I think first of all, he's got to work on getting to the front. So, yeah, my wingman had a pretty bad day yesterday, and you know, we've both made changes to our car setups for the race. Hopefully, we're both strong, and strategy always comes into play. So, I'm looking forward to having him come up the front. You know, last year I started at the back, and after the first stop, came out in second. So, I'm sure he can do it, and I think usually when he starts last, he wins the race. So, that'd be great.
Bob?
All right, thanks, Jack. Here are the numbers. 4 drivers have led the points this season. Briscoe, Franchitti, and Dixon have led 4 times this year, but only Ryan has led in back-to-back weeks, and he's done that twice. How many points are available today? Well, the winner gets 50, with the numbers decreasing down to 12 if you finish in 23rd position, the number of starters in the race. And Briscoe can clinch his first title here at Twin Ring Motegi, but it will also depend on what Franchitti and Dixon do. And of course, there are the 2 very important bonus points for leading the most laps. Back to Jack, who's with the Ganassi teammates.
Well, the guys that are chasing Ryan Briscoe, as you know, Bob, are right here. They comprise Target Chip Ganassi's team, Target team. And Scott Dixon is the defending champion, and Dario Franchitti back. I want to start with you, Dario, because you certainly have begun to apply the pressure. What's tougher, to chase down Briscoe or to have to deal with this guy?
I think they're both tough, but you know, 25 points, 2 races to go. It's a lot to ask, but I guess the pressure's almost off. We've just got to attack now. We know what we've got to do. We've got to win races, and it'll come to us. Whereas I think in 07 it was more difficult to kind of be conservative, and that was maybe a mistake. So we're going all out.
Scott, you've been in this situation before, so many times, both having a good outcome and a bad outcome. What did you learn from that you can take into this race specifically here at Motegi?
Well, I think this is probably most similar to 07 when we're trying to chase Dario down. You know, I think for us, we got nothing to lose. We got to try and, you know, for me, I think it's a 32-point deficit now to try and catch up. You know, Dario and I are fairly close in points, but we've got to try and make up the big margin to Briscoe. So, you know, already this weekend we've qualified ahead of them. We just got to make sure that we can continue to be that way. And, you know, hopefully the points rack up, and coming into Homestead, you know, we'll be closer.
Any deals between you 2 guys today?
I think if one of us wins, they'll be buying the beer tonight. Apart from that, there isn't any.
Got that, Bob? They're going to be banging some beers if they win.
Sounds good, Jack. We'll be watching more than the title contenders. Mario Moraes will be alongside Scott on the front row, his best series start. We'll talk with him when we come back to IndyCar Central on Versus. Twin Ring Motegi is located about 60 miles northeast of Tokyo and contains several different types of tracks, including the oval on which the Indy cars will compete today. Qualifying had its share of moments. Hideki Muto, hoping to do well for over 100 family and friends in attendance, hit the wall during his qualifying run. Elio Castroneves did likewise. Both drivers were checked over. They were declared okay and cleared to drive. Mario Moraes clocked in with an impressive 4-lap average in excess of 201.5 and was on the pole for a while, but then Scott Dixon, the last qualifier, knocked him off with a speed of 202.031, denying Moraes his first series pole, but it does give him his best start in the Indy cars. 2009 has been an up-and-down season for Mario. The low point of the year came in August when his father passed away in Brazil. He missed the Mid-Ohio race, but since then his results have been on the upswing. His best 2 finishes have come in the last 2 events, a 4th at Sonoma and a podium finish at Chicagoland. Now today, on the outside of the front row, Mario will have the best starting position of his IndyCar career. Here's Jack with the 20-year-old Brazilian.
And the thing that we have noticed about Mario Moraes' performances lately is a level of maturity. Now you've battled this Azul car to the front row. Where do you play into that maturity factor in the beginning of this race, Mario?
Well, I think it's going to be a very long race, so I'm looking to keep in with the leaders and then trying to work in the car for the first 150 laps and then start the race for the last 50.
That's not thunder here. That, of course, is some of the pre-race festivities continuing. But let's talk for a moment about, since you returned to competition after the loss of your dad, you brought a different attitude. What is the key to the way you race now, Mario?
Well, you know, I think after all that I go through, I think I I'm trying to be more focused what I'm doing. So, and before of that, I was with my mind on my dad and here, so it was not working very well. But now I'm 100% here, so I think it's going to be a good race.
Bob, not only is he 100% here, but everybody has noticed a spring in his step. Not just here, but since he sat on the podium at Chicago.
This could be the night. 8 of the 23 drivers have never raced at this racetrack. Others have competed here, but never under the IndyCar Series banner. They're scattered throughout the field. Marias is top among the group. Graham Rahal will start on the inside of row number 3, and Justin Wilson will start 9th. Thomas Scheckter has raced here 5 times. We salute his pit crew. They're winners of the Firestone Pit Performance Award from Chicagoland, allowing Thomas to spend less time on pit lane than any other competitor. He drove the 43 car then. The team is working with Thomas on the 23 car today. It's been 17 months since the last race here, but it's one that will be long remembered. Danica Patrick won her first and so far only series race. Can she add her image a second time to the Motegi Trophy? Welcome back to IndyCar Central on Versus. Danica Patrick won here in April of last year. Because of it, she's become a crowd favorite. Look at the incredible number of people rushing to get her autograph. And she's been also the object of much media attention. At Chicagoland, we brought you part 1 of Jack Arut's In Color interview with Danica. Here's part 2.
Let's go to a year ago, back to the scene. What are your recollections before the race? Because you had a pretty good body of work at Motegi for the times you'd been there before that.
I just remember, obviously, the weeper. I mean, that we were on the grid for hours, and you know, I remember flipping on the TV that night before, and just they had a camera on the weeper, and there was just ladies out there with rags, and they were sopping them up and wringing them into buckets, and I mean, it was a sight. But then, you know, I just remember the next day that it happened fast. You know, the morning got going, and you got out there, and it was quick. We went up there, we got introduced real quick, but we didn't do the lap because we had done it the day before, and it was literally walk off the stage, walk to the car, get in, go. And I just remember it happening really fast, and there was no time to dilly-dally. There was no, you know, there was not a ton of, you know, there's never too many cameras there, like sometimes here in the States, you know, there's a big cluster of them. You know, there's usually like 1 or 2 cameras, and it's all pretty calm, and you know, it was just, I just remember it happening fast.
The race unfolds. Checker flag comes out.
1.5 miles to go for Danica Patrick. Could history be made?
You become immortalized, because let's face it, first woman to win, you know, an IndyCar race in history. No one will ever be able to take that away from you.
Yeah.
Well, when you got to victory lane, or on your way to victory lane, when did it all begin to sink in?
It kind of hit me a little bit the last lap when Kyle Moyer said, you know, the checker flag's yours, bring it around or something, and I'm like, oh my gosh. You know, okay, so here we go.
Move over, the lady is coming through. Danica Patrick wins at Twin Ring Motegi.
I just remember crossing the line, and there was definitely like a certain period of almost disbelief, a little bit, kind of a little bit more of like a shock, like, you know, because it's just been, I mean, you know, it's been a long time. It was a long time coming. I mean, and so many people reminded me as to how it hadn't happened yet, and so it was, you know, at first it was like, it's happening. What do I do? Oh my gosh, I'm here now.
This is the best day of my life. I've dreamt about it.
And then it was relief. And now it's, I need to do it again, you know? I mean, I want to be one of those drivers that people remember as being a great driver.
It's a long time coming. Finally.
Well, last year when Danica Patrick went to victory lane, the sun was not shining, at least over Twin Ring Motegi, but you were certainly shining. But the difference was there wasn't the same sort of pre-race attention as you just talked about. You haven't been able to go anywhere here as the defending champion and not have people chasing you.
Yeah, it definitely changes how I maneuver around this place. You know, it's they're all so excited. Sometimes you about get taken out by their pictures or their arms or something. But you know, it doesn't change the fact that the Japanese fans have always been very excited and very interested in open wheel racing, and they definitely love us coming here. That's for sure.
There's something about this racetrack that you have taken an affinity to since day one. Have you been able to put a finger on it?
Yeah, it's definitely been a common question in the last year, you know, what is it about this place? And I have always run well, and I guess I just kind of, what I like out of a race car suits this track well, you know, and it makes it good for the duration of the race. So let's hope that that doesn't change today.
Hey, Bob, if you're into numerology, and a lot of people here are, Danica Patrick won from the 6th position. Guess where she's starting today?
I don't think she knew that. Thanks for watching an abbreviated edition of IndyCar Central on Versus. Stay with us. The start of the Japan Indy 300 from Twin Ring Motegi is coming up next. Konnichiwa, Watasha wa Bob Jenkins, Yokoso Motegi no Nihone, Indy Japan 300. How'd I do, Robbie?
That's pretty good. Yeah, mushy mushy.
I have no idea what I said, but I hope it sounded good.
It worked. It worked.
23 cars are set to go here for 200 laps, 304 miles on this 1.5-mile racetrack. Turns banked only at 10 degrees. It's pretty flat here, and it is the next to the last race of the 2009 season. Hard to believe that we're just one race away from the end of the season at Homestead Miami Speedway and the determination of a champion if it hasn't happened here this afternoon. The Japanese crowd is here, anticipating a great race. Let's go down for the command.
Go ahead, starter.
Third time by.
Third time by.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engine.
Command has been given. Command has been given. Okay, pit techs, call them off when they're hot.
Control, row 1, hot. 2, hot. 3, hot. 4, hot. 5, hot. 6, hot. 7, hot. 8, hot. 9, hot. 10, hot. 11 and 20.
Drivers now alone in their cockpits, ready to move on to the 1.5-mile egg-shaped track. Turns 1 and 2, a much wider sweep than 3 and 4. The drivers have been lifting and downshifting as they enter turns 3 and 4. Scott Dixon, yesterday during his qualifying run, he was the last on the racetrack, and he was the best. He wins his second pole of the year. Actually, it's the first time he's won a pole this year because starting on the pole at Kentucky was a result of owner points. Qualifying was rained out. Briscoe and Franchitti both have 4 poles each in the 2009 IndyCar season. Now let's take a look at the rest of the starting lineup. As you take a look at the lineup, Mario Moraes will start in second position. KB Racing's best previous start in the IndyCar Series was second by Will Power at St. Petersburg. And we assume that Will is watching tonight, recuperating from those injuries suffered at Infineon Raceway, along with Nelson Philippe. Hi, guys. Hope you enjoy the broadcast. Dan Weldon, a 2-time winner here. Thomas Scheckter almost won the race. Justin Wilson getting his first start here. Ed Carpenter, a bit of a disappointment in qualifying. He'll start on the inside of row number 6. In today's race, Mike Conway and Marco Andretti will make up row number 7. In the 8th row, it's Ryan Hunter-Reay and Kosuke Matsuura making his first start since late 2007. Roger Yasukawa is in the lineup for the first time in a long time, driving for Dreyer and Reinbold Racing. And EJ Viso also in row number 9. Dornbos and Barrett make up row number 10. And Helio Castroneves and Hideki Muto both crashed. They started row number 11. And Tony Kanaan, he was disqualified in a post-qualifying inspection. He will start last. Down to Jack.
All right, guys, let me give you my strategy. It's the same strategy that took Danica Patrick to victory. How did she win 1 year ago? By fuel consumption. What you want to watch is the first part of this race, and what you want to look for is how many caution laps do we have. Under normal circumstances at full rich, you've got to go 4 stops to go the distance here. But a lot of the teams that I talked to made note of what Danica Patrick successfully did, and they're starting to look and say, if we get some cautions early, we're going to do that. Key to that is going to be Tony Kanaan and also Helio Castroneves. Both their crews say they're going to try and use the Patrick strategy to get to the front. We'll wait and see.
Yep. From back to front, here are the onboard cameras. Tony Kanaan never worse than 6th here in his last 5 starts. Hideki Muto was still limping as a result of that incident that he had yesterday, but he's good enough to get into the cockpit and start the race. Kosuke Matsuura, his first event since Chicagoland of '07, starts 16th. Danica Patrick, well, she's the defending winner of this race and wants very much to get her image on the trophy once again. Graham Rahal will be making his very first start here at Twin Ring Motegi, starting in 5th position. And Mario Moraes, the man of qualifying yesterday beside Scott Dixon, as he will have the outside of the front row starting position.
And Bob, the first thing is that this is a 1.5 mile oval, but you got to manage your expectations. Remember, they may not run in packed side by side, Robbie, because this, especially there in turn 3, that's a tough one.
And here they come right now. And if you're Dixon, you want to get out front, have clean air, and run. And if you're Moraes, you want to lead a lap.
The Apex Brazil green flag, experience our energy flies, and here we go. Wow, look at Kanaan go to the inside and pick up on a couple of positions.
And did you see all the dust come up as they all went into one as they went back through there?
There was our question answered. Scott Dixon stood on it. Mario Moraes was high, and Dario Franchitti in the yellow car is up to 2nd.
Franchitti is carrying the LifeLock colors and has the yellow car once again. There's Hideki Muto.
And when you see all that dust and debris up in the air, that absolutely peppers the guy's windscreen. So they're already going through tear-offs.
A lot of sparks show from the other side of these cars in turns 1 and 2.
You'll see the sparks when the cars are heavy on fuel, waiting for the tire temperatures and pressures to come up. But Scott Dixon, we knew he would want to push. He didn't want to get tangled up with Mario Moraes. And his teammate just came right up behind him.
And let's get back to this championship.
Oh, look at this. Man, oh, man.
Wide as they're heading into turn 1.
And we're watching Hideki Muto go to the inside of Roger Yasukawa.
So coming back to what I was saying about Dixon, he wants to get up front, and there's championship points on the line for leading the most laps. So get up there and start clicking them off.
This is the 11th race that Scott Dixon has led this year. That ties him with Ryan Briscoe for most races led. Boy, they have got a nice wide racetrack and are using a lot of it here as Kanaan tries to pick up another position.
And Hideki also, who's got to be very sore. He had a big hit yesterday down in turn 3, but he's working his way right up there. He's right behind this guy right there, Tony Kanaan.
And directly in front of them is Helio Castroneves as they're trying to wire their way to the front. Now, one of the things, guys, that both these drivers told me they're going to do is use their push to passes to try and get to the front. Now, they don't need to get all the way up to like 1st or 2nd. They want to get to about 6th or 7th and then see how things shake out. But right now, they're trying to carve their way like a hot knife through butter from the back to the front.
Pictures from Japanese television, so we don't have a great deal of control over who we are seeing. The driver who has moved up the most in the first 5 laps of the race is Marco Andretti. He's gained 7 positions. Castroneves and Kanaan have both gained 5, Scheckter 4, and Viso 3.
Tony Kanaan is now working on the back of Ed Carpenter. Of course, Ed Carpenter flying different colors this weekend than what we saw with his great run in Kentucky. But we know this is the kind of racetrack, 1.5 mile oval, that takes good handling, that he should be a player, and he'll stay right between these two.
There's Marco Andretti.
And the one key area to this racetrack is down in 3 and 4. You're flat out everywhere else through here, through turns 1 and 2. That's coming off of turn 2 right there. But the key is rolling into turn 3 right there. It's about carrying good entry speed in there, but then it's about the ability to get back to power. And if you get back to power early, sometimes you do that because you overslow the entry. So that doesn't work. You got to have good entry speed and have the car have the ability to take the throttle.
Marco Andretti has moved up to 8th position. We're on board with Graham Rahal, who's right behind him.
And Graham's got a great run. Here's what Robbie was talking about. This is the approach to turn 3. Yee-hoo!
And there, and did you hear him drop the gears? He dropped the gear or 2 right as he went and dove inside him there.
Now, we may not see the same kind of pack racing as I mentioned from Chicagoland, but Robbie, that move we just saw and how much commitment it takes in turn 3, that's actually a tougher driving task than what we saw in Chicagoland.
And where that all starts is when you come off of turn 4. You want to have a good run off of 4, up the front chute through 1 and 2, and then he really used the draft and got alongside him and made a good clean pass getting into turn 3.
Scott Dixon has led 8 of the 9 oval races this season. He's in front of Dario Franchitti here at Twin Ring Motegi as we have IndyCar nonstop on Versus. Scott Dixon is out front of the Indy Japan 300, has led all the way so far. The advantage over Dario Franchitti is just a little over a second. There you see the interval, and it's back to about 3.1 seconds over Mario Moraes running in 3rd spot. Going back to the start of the 2008 season, Dixon has now led 16 out of 19 oval track races.
Fellas, Ryan Briscoe had a bit of a problem and quite a scare on the start of the race. It seemed as if his pit stop, the limiter that limits the speed, was stuck permanently engaged. They had to actually drop it and disconnect it on board. So that could create some issues when he comes onto pit road. So right now, he's flying without the pit stop limiter, and it could come into play if he has to make stops, especially under the green.
Jack, of course, how that works is you have a pit speed limiter, a button that you hit on the steering wheel that limits your speed to 60 miles an hour. And as we speak about that, look at that 200-mile-an-hour wiggle you had with Castroneves behind Kanaan.
And that was coming off of turn 2, which is a flat-out, fairly easy corner here. But he just had funny movement off the rear of his car, and he's going to have some other guys chasing him down right now.
Kanaan runs 16th. Castroneves 17th. Ed Carpenter has lost 7 spots since the start of the race. He's back in the 18th position. As far as the overtake assist is concerned, all but 6 drivers have already used at least one. Those running up front who have not include Mario Moraes and Graham Rahal.
And remember, you get 20 of those this race, and each time you press that button, you get that overtake assist for 15 seconds, and then you got to let it sit for 10 seconds before you can hit that button on the wheel again.
Yes, Jan, this is a 1.5-mile racetrack, but as you have pointed out earlier in the race, it's just radically different from Kentucky and Chicagoland and any other 1.5-mile track that we race on.
And that's because of the sort of egg-shaped configuration. You look back at Dan Weldon here off of Danica, you can see that was pretty wide open. But just listen as you go, oh, limiter.
So that means Danica's getting a really good shot out of turn 2 to get into that limiter.
And she just used her overtake assist because she realized she hit the limiter, was a little in the gear. She looks in the mirror and says, hang on a minute, Dan Weldon's coming. I'm going to use that defensively.
And use you say it, Patrick and Weldon both went to him.
Here he comes.
He's got to run. He has got to run.
Weldon's a two-time winner here. The National Guard car performing well at the early going, and he passes Patrick.
Fellas, as you watch that pass by Dan Weldon, it brings into play exactly why this racetrack is so unique, and not only from the paperclip formation, but the fact that they only run one major race a year, the IndyCar race here. That means that there's only one groove that is layered in, or rubbered in, as they say, and that is the low groove. So if you want to make a pass, all the drivers were talking about the fact that we'll have to use that push to pass, that overtake button, to work to our effect. You get above that little darker line down low, and you are out in no man's land.
Dan Weldon running 5th, then comes Danica Patrick, and right behind her is Graham Rahal. Stay with us for more of the Indy Japan 300. Here's IndyCar non-stop on Versus.
The adventure starts in Indianapolis. Creighton shipped 33 sleek racing machines, a job that's almost impossible. Packed and loaded onto a huge cargo prop jet. The first look at the mysterious nation below. Although auto racing is new in Japan, the fame of the 500 drivers precedes them. From this moment on, they are national heroes.
Sometimes the ones you win out, maybe not as hard as others, but I was running rather low in fuel at the end, and I was going a bit slowly, but...
Jackie Stewart won the race, being interviewed there, and the narrator of that film was Tom Carnegie, who spent more than 60 years as the public address announcer at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he celebrates his 90th birthday on the 25th of September. Happy birthday, Tom Carnegie, and many happy returns. There's first and second. They continue to run at just about the same interval as when we went to break. 0.6 of a second separating Dixon and Dario Franchitti. But with Dixon leading now, only 17 points separate the top three. He's cut into Briscoe's points lead coming into the race in half so far, but of course, we're only 30 laps into this 200-lap race.
And from Dixon's standpoint, when he looks back in the mirror and he sees it's his teammate back there, that's a good feeling because he can just concentrate on what's in front of him, just be smooth, consistent, do everything he can to conserve fuel, because we heard from Jack, that's a big part of this strategy. Obviously, he doesn't have anybody to draft, but Dixon is as good as anybody at just being very smooth with those throttle inputs, and the smoother you are with them, the better mileage you make.
And when they started the stint, they stood on it, got away at 196 miles an hour. Now they've throttled back. Dixon 192.7 on that last lap. Franchitti 193.1. So they're in fuel saving mode right now.
At the top of your screen, the hat showing the standings, the point standings as of this moment. And we're also watching the battle for 4th position as Weldon now closes in on Ryan Briscoe. Now, come on, is Ryan Briscoe being a little conservative?
No, he's driving as hard as he can right now. I think he's fighting a little bit of a balance relative to Weldon has, because we saw Weldon had a really good run through this section right here, 3 and 4. Let's watch Weldon close on him. He's got good rolling speed through the middle, and he can go back to the power. And Briscoe just is waiting a little bit to get to that full throttle, so just not quite the happy balance.
Robbie, that was a great observation on your part. In fact, they're going to take out a little bit of front wing to adjust the pressures on the Firestone tires on his pit stop, because they want to make the car just a little bit more neutral.
Not going to be able to get the kind of speed you want if you're pushing around here. Yeah. And Briscoe's not conservative, but maybe when you're running for a championship, you want to err on the side of the car being a little bit pushy.
You do, but if it's pushing as much as it is, he can't get back to the throttle in 3 and 4 because the front of the car's going up the racetrack, so he can't take the throttle.
Here comes Weldon.
Yep, he'll go to the inside at the end of the backstretch, entering turn 3, but will he get the position? No, he won't.
Well, you know, even though Briscoe's car's pushing on the way out, he sure as heck can drive it in hard to 3, and that's what you got to have. You got to be able to challenge 3 with big speed, but get back to that throttle. Now he's bought a little bit of time, but Weldon will keep working away on him. and Weldon will get by him with that push that he does have through 3 and 4.
Dan Weldon has never finished worse than 7th here at this racetrack. He finished 7th in 2003, then had 2 wins, 2 seconds, and a 4th. Back with more of the Indy Japan 300 in a moment. Back at Twin Ring Motegi, it is still Scott Dixon leading the race. They came up on a bunch of traffic a little bit ago, and they passed Robert Dornbos and Stanton Barrett, and it bunched them up a little bit, but now Scott is stretching out the advantage once again as they come up on Kosuke Matsura. Driving for Conquest Racing this weekend here in Japan.
And the key for Dixon right now is to set up that pass so when he comes off of here too, he can pull upside along Kosuke, make a clean pass as they're going into 3. Kosuke gives him a little bit of room, gets it done. But now the key is for him to set it up right here off of 4. That's the best place that he needs to look ahead to say, let me time this well so I can get by these guys with a good shot off of 2, make it clean as I get into 3.
What are we looking here for pit stops?
If you're saving some fuel, you might make it, if you're really saving fuel, you can make it to lap 50. I think we'll see people pitting on 48, 49.
Do you? I think we could see them as quick as 45, 46 even. I mean, just depending what's happening up front, if guys aren't getting help, and with having to go full rich early on, I think we could even see it before that maybe.
I'm going to go with Jack Arute on this one, that I think a lot of people learned from Danica Patrick last year, that this is a race where you save fuel. You don't go out there and burn a lot of fuel. You run as fast as you can while saving fuel. So we will get the answer. There's been no caution periods in this first segment. So when people peel off, that is a true indicator of what kind of mileage you're getting.
Danica Patrick has already used 10 of her 20 overtake assists.
So that can't be helping to the fuel conservation end of things. If you're already getting into your overtake button 10 times, you're thinking about protecting your position or making position. With her, it's been protecting your position.
Speaking of pit stops, Kosuke makes his first scheduled stop. Nice and clean, away he rolls.
So that would be expected. Lap 45, been out of the series for a while. But the guys who run up at the front, who know how to save the fuel, I think we're going to be seeing them for quite a few more laps circulating.
Yeah, but that's a part of the whole game and strategy. What do these guys have? And you never really know until you get to that first stop. I mean, that's part of the game, part of the fun, part of the challenge.
Now, Mario Moraes is somebody who we may see on pit road fairly early as well. He's at a very, very fast car, but doesn't typically have the experience or the history of big fuel saving.
I'd say the guy right now, and just as you say it, there he is.
And Mario Moraes comes onto pit road, will hit his marks. This has all been by design, guys. He has wanted to just stay with the leaders and be patient. Mark Johnson took him aside before the start of the race as they pulled the car filled with ethanol. Seems like they're having a problem there. It took a long time for him to get a full load in. He is off and well, but it was a long stop for Mario Moraes under green.
And did you see the fueler shake his head? It looked like he's saying, I didn't get the fuel in. We'll find out here, but it was shaking his head like, I didn't get the fuel in, guys.
Well, we're getting close to money time here. When will the leaders pull on? Every lap they do that they don't have to hit the pits is going to pay those big dividends.
All right, here's the pit stop by Moraes. Watch the fueler.
Now the hose is not stretched, so it's not an issue of where he parked, but see, it's the cock. Oh, there it is. It took a really long time for it to get into position. And even at this point, not certain whether there's no way that that's a full load of fuel. Well, unlikely. I should say no.
I mean, he could have been shaking his head at being frustrated.
Sure.
But it could be that he's like, guys, I didn't see it flowing in.
See, we see lap 50 up there. We still see guys on the racetrack.
A lot of cars coming in, though, including
we also saw guys coming in at lap 45.
Yeah. So what do you say? We're both right again.
No, Bob's right.
The only winner in IndyCar Series competition besides a Penske driver or a Ganassi driver. And here's Frank.
That means
now.
I think Dixon went on to pit road and his teammate stayed out.
He did. And he should stay out because he was saving fuel, drafting behind Dixon. And Dixon, look, he's getting held up coming down pit lane.
Hideki and Carpenter.
This guy's going to benefit from it right there. Dario Franchitti's going to benefit from all that.
He's still coming down pit lane, Jack.
And Hideki Muto created a problem there, but now Dixon will have to show some patience. Ricky Davis on the outside making the change. Dario Franchitti in the meantime is still out at full song as Dixon pulls away. Franchitti is now pulled onto pit road. 60 miles an hour, and Dario Franchitti will come in, but he will have a one-lap advantage over his nearest competitor and his teammate, Scott Dixon. Ryan Briscoe is also going to come in at this point in time as well. Let's see how the LifeLock crew goes to work. 22 gallons of fuel as you see Briscoe slide by to go to his pit stop. They're putting a little bit of front wing in the LifeLock car. In the meantime, Briscoe's crew is completing their service, and he is working, and he is off and away. He lights the tires up. But now remember, Franchitti and Briscoe all pitted one lap later than Dixon.
And there they are. They're coming out together. Scott Dixon is up to speed. Franchitti is not quite up to speed. If he stays on the high side, will he get him?
Franchitti should maybe be able to get a run off of 3 and 4 here on him, but it's not going to happen, is it?
Franchitti will take the lead.
If you run longer, you go to the front. General rule of pitting late.
Really, really good job. Look at though, Dixon's got to run, guys. Dixon's got to run.
The Ganassi teammates fight it out here, wheel to wheel.
There he comes.
And they said there's no rules. When Jack talked to him earlier, there's no rules until after the race is done.
Oh, look at this, though.
And there's no way Dario's going to, he just worked so hard on trying to get that position. His in-lap and his out-lap got him in that position. He's not going to, like, say, hey, come on by.
And where Dario's move there was brilliant. He came out of pit road, and he hustled that car into turns 3 and 4 on cold tires. Remember, they're not up to temperatures and pressures, and he held Dixon behind him that had been out for a lap with warmer tires.
Moving up to third in that pit cycle was Dan Weldon. Briscoe is fourth, and Patrick, Mariah, Schechter, Servia, Rahal, and Andretti are the top 10. Jack, what's the story on Marias?
And Bob, let me update you on Mario Marias. Let me update you there because Mario Marias did not get a full load of 22 gallons. They are now trying to figure out just how much they were able to get in the car. At best guess, about a half a load.
Wow, that is not good news for Mario Marias, who is currently running in 6th position, but light on fuel. Back with more in a moment on Versus. Saturday night, October 10th, Homestead Miami Speedway. Who will win the championship for 2009 in the IndyCar Series? As they run right now, Franchitti is only 7 behind Briscoe and Dixon only 22 behind Briscoe. The race to the championship is at Homestead Miami Speedway, and you will be there on Versus starting at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, Saturday, October the 10th.
Why wouldn't you want to be down in Homestead, swing through South Beach, little run along there, a little bit of rollerblading? I'm going to be there.
Are you on your rollerblades?
Heck yeah.
Is that right? Can't wait to see that.
That's the only way I'm going to keep up with Jan and his pace of running since he tried crushing me the other day. Dang.
Well, the championship has gone down to the wire the last 2 seasons, and it looks like it's going to this year, except the last couple of years it's been at Chicagoland. This year at Homestead Miami.
This is going to get real interesting here. You got Schechter and Rahal right back there. They're getting hung up a little bit by Carpenter, but they're going toe to toe. And Rahal's been having a run at Schechter, but now they got to poke through traffic.
And Schechter, that was one aggressive move on Ed Carpenter. Now he goes for another.
And Rahal goes to the inside of Ed, who's obviously not pleased with that car. He's fallen back to 20th spot and is a full lap down.
Graham Rahal is making his first stop ever here at Twin Ring Motegi, and he liked his car since it came off the 747. And today, guys, of the front runners, he's one of the few that has not made any changes, tire pressures or wing adjustments during that first pit stop.
And he's also not used any of his overtake pushes as well.
Which is surprising. When you're running in groups, that's when you can really get an advantage of the overtake assist. And he was battling with Danica. She kept using it. He never touched it.
Tony Kanaan has gone a lap down. He's in 16th. And that's Scott Dixon right behind him.
Which is a shock for Kanaan because there's been nobody better consistently at this racetrack. So obviously he's still just battling that. And, you know, he did the professional thing to do. He saw Dixon coming through. Didn't try and hold him up, just kind of eased out of the gas, gave him a gap to get by clean.
Kanaan is the veteran here at Twin Ring Motegi. This was his 12th start in the IndyCar Series or in kart. And his best finish, of course, was in 2007 when he won. There's Dario Franchitti, who is leading the race now by about, well, that many car lengths, about 7/10 of a second.
If you wanted to put together a storybook lead-in to Homestead, it would be as it is now, or even if Scott Dixon were to get by Dario and Briscoe struggles as he is a bit now, that would just set nearly a level playing field going into the final race.
It would. Up on the top, you see the overtakes remaining.
Do you think Dario's saying, I'm going to lead some laps now and do what I can to get those 2 points? He's not going to do any favors for his teammate. You get up there. I think it's flat out. Run as hard as you can, and who can ever lead as many laps as possible between these guys. That's the order.
Yeah, favors are out the window, except for debriefs. Even though they're racing for a championship, when they get to debrief and engineer their cars, they're still sharing data. They're still helping each other for the fastest car. But once it comes to the wave of the green flag, it's just racing each other flat out.
Franchitti coming up to lap Mike Conway, who's running in 15th position. So Dario Franchitti is in control at the moment. His best finish here at Motegi was in 2007. He finished in 3rd spot. Franchitti leads by 0.6 of a second over Dixon.
Of course, Indy cars don't have power steering, so one of the important choices on a race weekend, what steering ratio do I want to run? Here's the parts and pieces that are involved. Of course, it's a rack and pinion steering. Here's the rack, here's the pinion. This is a pinion that has 10 teeth. You would use this at Long Beach, or a place that as you turn, you want a lot of movement of the steering rack, but there's not a lot of heavy, high-speed corners at Long Beach. You try to use this at a place like Iowa, where you're turning a car at over 8,500 pounds of side load, you couldn't even turn it. You need to use a 6-tooth pinion, so it has a much slower steering. Now there's also a variable ratio rack. You see on the standard rack, all the teeth are the same distance, but here you have slow steering in the middle, faster steering on the outside. The general rule of thumb for a race weekend, you want the most aggressive, heaviest steering that you can get away with without wearing yourself out.
Now you may think that variable speed rack is only a road course thing, but lots of people like to run it here at Twin Ring Motegi because you have the egg shape of the racetrack, but then when you pull into your pit box, it gives you that extra steering to get in and get next to the fuel hose.
We have run caution-free so far with 77 laps out of the 200 completed. We had the most cautions at Indianapolis this year, 8, and the fewest cautions at Edmonton and Kentucky, only 1. And now a side-by-side battle between Dario Franchitti and Elio Castroneves.
And he's thinking, if I can get by Elio, as he just did, that means Elio's really not going to be in a good position to help his teammate Briscoe as this race goes along. So that's what, you know, Franchitti's saying, hey, that's a good thing. That just gave him a little extra shot in the arm for driving harder in that cockpit.
By the way, while we were in commercial, Mario Moraes came in to get another dose of fuel. You saw it in non-stop, and that has put him back in 19th spot. You got to really feel sorry for Mario. He has had one problem after another. Finally getting his podium at Chicagoland, and had big hopes going into the race today, but things aren't working out very well for him. He's a lap down in 19th.
But he absolutely has grown a bunch as a race driver in the last couple races, and just by being on the front row here, yeah, they had a miscue in the pits, didn't get the fuel in it, that's part of building character, making you a better race car driver. That happens. He keeps doing what he's doing, his day will come.
And the way those fuel nozzles work is that the first time when you go to seat, if it's not perfectly straight, it's almost impossible to get it recocked and flowing again. It's that initial push that has to be just perfectly smooth and straight.
Weldon just went by.
And Jan, the problem there was, the problem with Mario Moraes on that first pit stop was he was too far out. We've seen that before. And that was a case where they stretched it. So during that last pit stop, Mark Johnson reminded Mario that he's got to come in straight, as you alluded to, and tried to calm him down a little bit and said, look, we got the opportunity trying to make the glass half full. Now we can run full rich and we'll just get back on sequence next time through.
So I started to say that was Weldon that went by Castro Neves as well. So, I mean, that whole front pack is putting Castro Neves a lap down right now.
Weldon is third.
Now, we have talked a lot about how the points are shaking out and how, you know, Briscoe maybe isn't where he wants to be, but he is not very far behind. And remember, he also went 51 laps, just like Dario did. We know he had a push in the first segment, so Ryan Briscoe is not out of this thing by any means. He's lurking. No. He is lurking there, and he could pounce at any moment.
Yeah, you still got a couple more opportunities to tune that race car at pits and what have you. And, you know, I read a quote from Dixon prior to this event, and he said, a car can go off bad at this place. And, you know, you just wonder what Elio's got that he's fighting with that car down through turns 3 and 4. It really looks like these guys aren't working that hard from the cockpit, but I'm telling you, this place is as challenging as any racetrack I've ever driven down through there. And when it's not right, it's no fun. It's fast. You can't wait for the thing to be over.
There is Dario coming up on Moraes to put him 2 laps down. Either way, we talked about cautions a little bit ago. The fewest number of cautions we've ever had here at Motegi. 3. That happened in 3 years, 2004, 06, and 07. Things have kind of settled down here as Franchitti has now a 2.2 second advantage on Scott Dixon and a 2.5 second lead on Dan Weldon. Briscoe 4th and Danica Patrick 5th at Twin Ring Motegi. Tomorrow, college football is on Versus. The Florida State Seminoles head to Provo to take on the 7th-ranked BYU Cougars. Don't miss it tomorrow night, 6:30 Eastern, here on Versus. You're watching live coverage of the Indy Japan 300 from Twin Ring Motegi. In Japan, Dario Franchitti has led 40 laps. Scott Dixon led the first 49. We have now 9 cars on the lead lap, and we have run without a caution so far. And Thomas Schechter is having all kinds of problems. He's been in pit lane for quite a while, and he is out of the car. Watch this. Kosuke Matsura had a big moment just a few laps ago.
It was scary. He went black.
Yeah,
he went black. Right. Couldn't see where he was going. And when it did, he got high. And when you get a little bit out of the groove here, it gets slick in a big hurry.
And there he is coming down pit road saying, I would come in and have a talk with you guys.
Here you go. Watch this. Out of control. Still out of control.
Whoa, look out. Remember,
he was on the straightaway still going sideways, catching up with that thing.
Wow, nice save.
That was drifting.
Very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, a bit of drifting going on.
And you know, this racetrack, when you're off the pace and there's faster guys getting by you and you get a little bit out of the groove, or you're trying to give them a little window and be courteous to them, when you get up out of this groove and you get up in that gray, it absolutely just continuously takes your momentum away, and you can never really get your speed back. It's really tough.
Guys, let me update you on the strategy. You guys were talking about the fact that uncharacteristically now we've gone so long without a caution. I'm beginning to like, as Jan did, Ryan Briscoe and also Dario Franchitti, but I think maybe the linchpin is going to be that final pit stop. Yes, you're going to need fuel, but you know what? In checking with the Firestone tire engineers, the tire wear with this new tire they brought here has been wearing exceptionally. So I think if I'm Roger Penske and I'm trying to catch Dario Franchitti, I hope he goes for 4 brand new Firestone Firehawks on the final stop, and I elect to try and go the remainder of the distance on the old set of tires and make myself a faster pit stop. Could be real interesting at the end of the race.
An interesting scenario. We'll see how that plays out, but that could be a lot of laps on a set of Firestones. I mean, they could get to a point where they really went off there, but that's part of the games. It's all about how quick can you get in and out of the box, you know, the pit box, and if that gives you the track position, hey, you got to try it.
You could see from that graphic that Dan Weldon pitted a couple of laps earlier than Franchitti and also Briscoe. So he's going to have to save a lot of fuel to get back into that 3-stop window. And when Jack was talking about maybe going for 2 stinting on tires, Robbie, I don't think you want to do that on long stints. You kind of play that kind of hanky-panky when you got a short one.
Yeah, that's that last stop.
But that won't be short. That'll be a full stint.
Guys, let me update you on Thomas Scheckter as well. Let me update you on Thomas Scheckter as well. They're taking the car back to the garage to try and fix it. It seems something has gone awry in the gearbox.
All right.
Well, Thomas was very confident coming into here. He's done well at this racetrack. He liked his race car, so sorry to see him out of it so early.
Finished 9th back in 2007.
In 05, he was leading and ran out of fuel,
yeah,
I think.
And Weldon won.
Yep. 2 laps. Is that one? Yeah, Weldon won, yeah.
Yep.
That was Weldon's very first IndyCar win.
He won here in 2004.
Oh, I'm sorry, 4. So 4 was his very first win.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, here's Ryan Hunter-Reay on pit lane.
Oh, a little bit far. Anytime you have to shuffle on your knees to go for the wheel gun, that's a little bit past the marks.
You know, it had been rumored that Vitor Meira, who crashed in Indianapolis, would be back in time for the season finale at Homestead, Miami. He will not, but we certainly look forward to his return next year.
AJ saying that he may physically be okay, but didn't really think he wanted to throw him to the wolves in a place like Homestead after being out of the car so long.
Mike Conway makes a pit stop. By the way, AJ Foyt is not in Japan because he is having problem with one of his legs. So AJ, hope you get better, and we'll see you in Homestead. And now Franchitti comes up on the 9th running Marco Andretti as Justin Wilson hits pit lane. Z-Line Designs machine slides to a halt.
Now Dan Weldon will bring the National Guard car down onto pit road. Weldon, who has made such a torrid run and has been running so well, has had to make some minor chassis adjustments. This is their second pit stop under green. He hits his marks. They're going to take the full 22 gallons of ethanol on board. They've completed their work, and now they just got to make sure they've got it. He lights it up, and he's away.
And here comes Dixon to make his second stop of the afternoon.
Scott Dixon, 60 miles an hour. Ricky Davis has his arm outstretched, telling him to go to work. Also, Helio Castroneves, Dario Franchitti still out on the racetrack. Looks to be a nominal stop. Taking on the fuel. Will Dixon be able to get off and away? He does, but where is Franchitti? A good job. Franchitti, in the meantime, again, just about an extra lap for the leader, the LifeLock team. From Target Chip Ganassi goes to work, and Ryan Briscoe, who is yet to stop, is on pit road. And fellas, I find that kind of interesting that Briscoe is out front. But remember, he had that problem with the pit limiter button early on, so now it looks like he's able to put a little extra distance. And Danica Patrick is also on pit road. And Briscoe comes across the start-finish line and fades out. He's getting much better mileage than everybody else.
On the racetrack, Ryan is just ahead of Dan Weldon.
Man, talk about fuel mileage.
Yeah. You would think he's got to be coming in on 3 here, isn't he? He's staying out. He's doing another lap. Wow.
And now Ryan Briscoe becomes the 3rd leader of the race.
Are you surprised to see him put those couple laps extra on Frank versus Franchitti?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe one, a lap or 2, maybe, but that's, wow, that's impressive. Remember we said he wasn't out of it.
And he's not even he's not even down into turn 3 pit in right now.
Hey, now.
They are making fuel, or there's no communication.
The thing is, though, in order to make fuel, you have to slow down. Has he slowed down too much to save fuel?
Meanwhile, the Ganassi guys have swapped positions as Dixon is now ahead of Franchitti on the racetrack, and that's because Dario had a moment in turn 2.
Turn 2 is a flat-out corner. You know, you're mashed hard on the gas. There are some bumps as you go through there. Sometimes that can play a role in that.
And now Ryan Briscoe will come in for his 2nd stop.
But there's a caution. Did he make it in before the caution?
Conway has crashed.
Briscoe has had it going.
Hey guys,
let him stop, Jack.
And guys, there will be no penalty. He had hit the line in time, so he's able to take advantage of the caution and be able to come in and take a full fuel. One of the things that Roger Penske did immediately.
Oh, you can't believe it.
See if he was going to have to drive through or not.
He hit the inside wall coming out.
And he didn't rush it. He hit the wall enough. I mean, he tried to light it up, leaving the box. The car shot left. He took out the timing stand and then got into the wall.
By that strategy, he had this race covered.
Oh, he was just given a gift.
And this car, if this car's damaged, he just threw that thing away.
Oh, he hit that wall pretty good.
Yeah,
he had to tweak that suspension a little bit.
You got to be kidding me.
And now the cone is disintegrating under the car.
He didn't even need to light it up. It was like the golden gift he was just given by a yellow flag. He beat it to the line. He lit it up, and it got away from him. Wow.
Wow.
The pits are closed.
You never say never. You just, things can happen so quick, so fast.
You know he's sitting there on pit road saying, we've done it, we've done it, we've done it. We beat the yellow, we got in, it's our race. And then, poof. Can't believe it. He hit hard enough. I think it's hurt.
It's got to be hurt. Because he hit enough with the left front going in. If it was the whole left side that just kissed it, then that would have been an equal pressure. But it was the left front that kind of digged in, so that left front has to have a little tweak into it.
Well, he didn't stop.
Guys, let me update you. He just did the drive-through, and we all could see, the green cone that is utilized that says end of pit road speed limit. It is wedged on the inside wing and front suspension. Outside of that, it doesn't look as if he's got any major problems, but now they've been able to take a look-see at what they've got to deal with, and he is most likely going to have to come back onto pit road, if nothing more, change that front nose and extract that wing, that cone.
Well, let's hope, Jack, that it didn't tweak any of that suspension. It looked like a pretty good hit from here, but just got to take a look at it.
He's going to get behind the pace car, take his position as the leader.
Yes.
But we don't know if this car is damaged. Robbie and I think he hit hard enough to where that's going to need repair. Certainly, he's going to have to come in and remove the cone. And so he's going to lose that track position. But is he going to have to stay on pit road long enough to where they're actually going to have to replace suspension? Then he would lose laps, and that would be a killer.
Here it is again.
Watch it go left.
Lights it up.
Here.
Oh, look at that. And then, wow, that's a big hit.
That left front took a big hit. And, but he did have the gift. That's why they brought him through the field right now to get behind this pace car, because he had such a gift. They hit that timing so well that he was at pit in by the time it went yellow. So there's your gift.
Yep.
That's why he's the leader of this race right now, but he's got to come back in, and there's got to be something tweaked on that, whether it's a rod end or something.
either way, he's going to come on pit road and he's going to lose all that track position. And we got so hung up on that certainly Mike Conway, that was a big accident for him.
And this is the tough part of this racetrack, turns 3 and 4.
Right in the middle.
Running by himself.
Right about where that bump is.
Yeah,
Stepped out.
You got a bump as you roll down into 3 there. There is a bump, and if it does anything to unsettle that rear, that's what happens. Big hit.
And here comes Briscoe now to get the cone out from underneath the car.
What do you think is he thinking right now? Is he?
He's thinking.
He's kicking.
He's thinking, please, car not be damaged. Please just let me back out, and I can make everything up to the team.
Elio also comes in.
Well, that's because he's at the back. I would assume just going to play some
fuel.
alternate strategy.
Yeah.
It's 14th.
Yeah. So.
Well, they're changing the front wing on Ryan Briscoe's car. They have gotten the tube. They have gotten the pylon out. They are now checking to see in terms of whether the car is out of tow. Ryan Briscoe felt they felt like once they got that cone out, because of the way it was pulling Motegi to the left, that it might not be a big problem. As he pulls back out, Roger Penske wants Ryan Briscoe to try and go up to speed a little bit and now check the front end geometry.
What a turn of events for Ryan Briscoe, the points leader going into this event right now. He has an 18-point advantage on both Dixon and Franchitti.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
There was moments of like, wow, what the heck is going on? You know, as I'm spinning across the track and my front wing gets ripped off and I stall in the pits, and you know, I mean, those things were like, wow. But then also, wow, she took the lead. I wasn't able to run really low on the track, which ultimately was what allowed Dan to be able to get just a little wing down below me, and he didn't have to lift then.
He's going to move to the inside of the Roscoe, Illinois native. They're side by side. Weldon will try to take the lead into 1.
You know, while I was disappointed that it ended up the way it did, and you know, but I was still happy and proud that it was still good. I mean, I led, I had a chance to win it, and that's all you can ask.
And of course, Danica did win here at Twin Ring Motegi last year. And we talk about numerology. She started in 6th position last year, won the race. She started in 6th position this year. At the halfway point last year, she was running 5th. At the halfway point this year, she was also running 5th before we had this accident. Jack, what's the latest on Briscoe?
Well, Ryan Briscoe has already gone 1 lap down, now 2 laps down, as the Team Penske crew goes to work changing the complete left side uprights. They were badly bent during that. And one of the things you should know, guys, that green cone, well, it normally isn't like the rubber cones that you would be on the highway. I know I've hit one now and again, and you figure that isn't going to start you into the wall the way it did Ryan Briscoe's. But this is a solid plastic cone. And all of a sudden, when it got in there and got locked up in that steering, he'd lost it. It not only pulled to the left, but it pulled right into a close encounter of the concrete kind.
Do you see his eyes? He's got that visor up, kind of his head down. I mean,
yeah, he
wow.
knows. And it was, he was already on a wall-kissing trajectory before he ever caught that green cone, and he knew at the time, I've just thrown it away.
We are under caution because of an incident involving Mike Conway as Ryan Briscoe remains on pit lane. Back in a moment on Versus. The almost unbelievable has occurred here. Ryan Briscoe, pulling out of the pits, made contact with the inside wall on the left part of the car. They're changing suspension parts. He has now dropped all the way back to 3 laps down, and he has gone from the leader in the point standings to 8 points behind Dixon and Franchitti. Dixon is 5 points ahead of Franchitti and 8 points ahead of Briscoe.
And the key word there, as they run.
As they run.
Yeah, right.
But also remember, it's not as though he was drag racing somebody out of his pit box to beat him to the line for position. That wasn't the case at all.
No, he had a free gift. Here, take the lead. Just leave the pits.
I tell you.
It's worth saying that these cars do have stagger. So when you start to spin the rear tires, the cars do have a tendency, once they hook up, to turn left.
It just, you know, never get sucked down a path that these cars are always easy to drive and I don't have to be on my game. You never can relax. You just always have to be on your game.
That shot he had there, though, clearly showed that Briscoe crossed the line coming out of the pits before Dixon, and so that's why he was in the lead for a while before he came in for the repairs. But right now, Scott Dixon is in the lead over Franchitti, and Weldon. Servia is running fourth. Good run by Oriole Servia for Newman Haas Lanigan Racing. Danica Patrick is behind Graham Rahal in sixth position. Matos, Andretti, Marias, and Wilson complete the top 10. Oriole Servia has never competed here at this racetrack in the IndyCar Series. He did, however, run 3 kart races here at Twin Ring Motegi, and his best finish was 6th in 2002.
He was very happy with the improvements they made to his car from practice to qualifying, and then he was actually a little frustrated with himself at qualifying because his first couple laps he left so much on the table and said, I'm still learning about that car. But the flip side, he said to himself, well, I got 200 laps to keep improving and challenging this thing and using all the racetrack. Obviously, he's right on par with doing that and that strategy.
Apex Brazil green flag is about to come out to restart our Indy Japan 300 on lap number 118. Here we go.
So what's Dan Weldon, the third car in line there, what's he got for those guys right there, the Ganassi boys and Dixon and Franchitti? I'm thinking from earlier, you remember when Weldon was trying to make that pass on Briscoe and he kind of stalled out? I'm thinking Weldon's got a little bit more downforce in his car than what Briscoe has, and I'm guessing maybe a little bit more downforce than what the Ganassi cars have, just kind of historically of knowing maybe where they're going with that. And Jack, you may know more on that as this kind of unfolds.
Give a shout out also to Rafa Matos, who's running in 4th position. There he is in the number 2 Lusso Dragon car. And look at him come up on Hideki and Carpenter.
You can see where he went to the brakes there. I mean, he had to use the brakes pretty heavily there just to say, whoa, let me get back here, guys.
He's got a nice run now.
And that's rolling into turn 1, very flat wide. There's a big bump down in there. There it is in front. We just saw the one car kind of spark. That's where that bump is. That's where you want to get back to throttle. We heard him lift out of it. The sooner you can get back to full throttle, the faster set your speed all the way down this front straight, all the way through turns 1 and 2, and leading back to 3. It really is a unique racetrack in terms of the challenges it presents and trade-offs with downforce and how fast you want to let the car run free, but needing the downforce to get through here.
Muto is a lap down in 13th. Big pack of cars coming down the straightaway. Servia, Patrick, Rahal on board with Graham.
And Rahal's on the button. That's the first overtake assist he's used the entire race.
And he got the position. He's moving up to 6th.
And there goes Ryan Briscoe.
Wow, back in the race. He is 11 laps down.
That's when it's tough to get back engaged in this race and keep your concentration at the level it needs to be, knowing what he's been through and that he's, you know, absolutely out of this in contention, but just, you know, the lead that he had and how it was padded. Tough.
Coming back in. Nope.
Robbie Beal, you were asking about the downforce package that Dan Weldon might be running as compared to the leaders. I just checked with David Cripps. The National Guard car has kind of elected to go with what they call a happy medium, not high, not low. And he said that's one of the reasons why we're making some of the adjustments on the front wing during the first stops. Asked him if he thought he could keep pace with the Target Chip Ganassi cars. He shrugged his shoulder, and he kind of looked like a guy that had 4 of the 5 lottery numbers in Powerball.
Well, that 5th number comes after they make their last pit stop, and we see where it shakes out.
You know, the whole dynamic of this race has changed with Briscoe's problem leaving pit road, because the Ganassi team, we heard Jack talk to both of them, and they said they had to attack. Well, they're smart enough to know that, hang on a minute, we're not in attack mode now, we're keeping the thing, bringing the car home mode, which is much different when they had Briscoe out there with a big point lead.
So does that mean, since we saw when Jack talked to him, they said, well, whoever could win this race between either one of them is going to buy the beer. So right now they're just doing that posturing to see who's going to have to buy later tonight, maybe?
That's all it comes down to right now is who's buying the beer, because you couldn't ask for a better day. Now, we don't want to do the whole as they run thing. Anything could happen.
Danica looking inside at her teammate, Marco. Flat out through here. You know, 195 miles an hour as they roll off of turn 2, up to 206 miles an hour, down to 180 through there. I've said it before, this is really a challenging track, Jan. I mean, we look at 1.5 mile super speedways as we talked about at the top of the show, but this is very unique format here, only 10 degrees, and it really has tendencies to drive more like a short track, like a flat 1 mile, like a Milwaukee even at times.
You work hard here. That's the key section, Robbie, you've talked about so many times. This is a place that gets your attention. It's not like where you can stack up and run 2-3 wide, but when it comes to trusting your car, committing, and pushing, this place is tough. And who would have thought leaving pit road would be the thing that would have tripped up the championship leader when you have this many difficult corners?
It's really changed the whole way we're kind of looking at things right now, hasn't it?
Yeah. Ryan will enter pit lane again with 69 laps to go.
I can't imagine how he feels. I'm like crushed just looking at the poor guy.
The thought of possibly clinching the championship here this weekend is over. It will go to Homestead, Miami.
Nothing real quick happening. It looks like they're just looking and sizing it up. Briscoe still hanging tight in the car.
Yep. What a disappointing day for Ryan Briscoe.
Guys, they're just checking the toe on the front of the car. They want to make absolutely certain that it's safe enough for him to go back at speed. They're already so many laps down, it makes sense.
On the racetrack, it's Scott Dixon leading Dario Franchitti, Dan Weldon, Oriol Servia, and Rafael Matos. Briscoe had thoughts of maybe clinching the cup in 2009 season here at Twin Ring Motegi. It all went wrong, exiting the pits, and he is currently in 19th position, 3rd now in the point standings. Dixon is the leader of the point standings as they run, by 5 over his teammate and by 8 over Ryan. Franchitti 2nd, then Weldon. Rahal has moved up to 4th, Servia 5th, and let us not count out Mario Marias, who has remained on the lead lap and is running in 6th spot.
And the way he was able to do that was that caution period came out at the perfect time for Mario to make up from that early stop when he didn't get a full load of fuel. So that was just, because remember, you pit later, you take advantage of that, and that played out great for Mario.
And we were on board with him a little bit earlier. I was watching, and he hasn't done it that lap. Of course, we go on board to see it, but he's been taking his left hand down, and as soon as he comes off of turn 2 here and gets on the back straightaway, he looks like he's been softening the front bar so that gets a little bite on the front, and then when he comes off at 2, he stiffens it up, but he's not doing it then, but he was doing it routinely prior when I was watching his onboard.
These two cars are racing for position, by the way. Marias and Rafael Matos, 6th and 7th.
Rafael Matos had used the overtake assist to try to defend when Mario Marias came up behind him. Actually, it was when Rahal came up behind him, and it didn't work, and then he had a big wiggle.
And up the racetrack.
Yeah. As soon as Rahal had taken the air off the car.
Danica Patrick has moved her overtake assist button the most. She's only got 3 remaining.
There's Rafael getting by Marias.
So Rafa moves to 6th.
And what set that up is the shot he got off of turn 4. Now we're back into 3 and 4. And what sets it up is right there, getting back to throttle.
Now he goes to the bar.
Yeah, finally.
See? That was it, Robbie. I was going to say, all of a sudden, he lost pace.
And it looks like usually when you go forward with that, you're stiffening maybe your front bar. So he stiffened it for turns 1 and 2, and then he softens it so it gives a little bit more grip on the front as he rolls into 3 and 4.
Danica Patrick coming up on the back of the car.
As we look at Danica Patrick showing Mario Marias right in front of her, Mario Marias and his crew decided before the start of this race they were going to set a goal for the last 2 races. They didn't want to finish in the top 10. They wanted to finish in the top 7. They figured we'll split the difference. And then when he qualified as well, they said, dare we say, let's shoot for finishing in the top 5 in the last 2 races. That seems to be their goal right now.
That's where he is running, but boy, Danica got a great run off of corner number 4, and she goes to 7th position, and Marias is back to 8th. Here's what's happened so far in this race.
It was a clean and aggressive start for Scott Dixon, right to the front, but on lap 49, he goes to the pits, and man, there's a traffic jam. Come on, I gotta get to the pits, get some points for the championship. But then Dario Franchitti pitted 2 laps later and hustled it off the pit road and said, take that, teammate. I'm going to be buying the beer tonight. Oh, look at this. Out of the groove. Woohoo! Look out, baby. He saved it, but that was not the case later on. Here is what the turning point of the race. As Ryan Briscoe is leaving after the Conway crash, he had the gift of getting on pit road when the yellow came out. We know now the car was damaged, severely damaged, took a lot of repair on pit road. Ryan Briscoe, you can see it right in his eyes. Man, it's slipping away. While that's slipping away, it certainly isn't for Target Chip Ganassi. Hey boys, now let's see who's gonna buy the beer. Take that, says Scott Dixon on Dario Franchitti. These two battling, knowing now the pressure is off. Briscoe's in trouble. Let's see who can take the win and the championship to Homestead.
There's the points as they run. Briscoe now 3rd in the point standings, 8 behind. Up front, it's Dixon and Franchitti separated by about 0.6 of a second, and Dan Weldon is having an excellent run in the National Guard car for Panther Racing, running in 3rd spot. By the way, Panther's last win in the series was Thomas Schechter at Texas in 2005. Looks like Dario's closing in a little bit on him, isn't it?
One thing Dario's doing by hanging right behind his teammate is extending his fuel window a little bit, making a little extra fuel, looking at Ryan Hunter-Reay driving for AJ, hitting the box.
He was in 14th position when he gave it up to come in to make his hopefully final pit stop. Fuel is in and away he goes.
And that should be his last stop. lap 154 with 46 to go. That will be his last stop.
Anybody who stops now will be good to go, assuming they get all the fuel in the car. So you have to be sure you pull close enough to the fuel hose. Justin Wilson.
And Justin Wilson pulls to the Z-line pit with Dale Coyne. Remember, they are a winner this year. Wilson having a fairly easy run. Came in 12th position. They're taking out the fuel. And he is off to what they like to call a nominal, not normal, nominal pit stop.
Wilson gave Dale Coyne his first win in the Indy cars at Watkins Glen earlier this year.
And those guys are making great headway on the super speedways. Wilson finished 10th in Chicago. He was definitely showing some speed here, qualifying in the top 10, so they're definitely whittling away on their super speedway program. We know they got it figured out on the road courses.
Now Dixon comes up on Ryan Briscoe. Put him another lap down. Briscoe will go 16 laps down.
So for the lead of this race, now what we got to watch is the pit in and pit out lap and how they get in and get out of their box between Dixon and Franchitti. That could determine who takes the lead after everybody cycles through here.
And the key will be what lap do you peel off. We knew that Dan Weldon would be here a bit earlier because of when he stopped last.
And Weldon hits his marks exactly right. Now let's wait to see if they make any change. They made tire pressure adjustment on all 4 tires. Will there be a chassis adjustment? No. A very quick stop for Dan Weldon.
Both Dixon and Franchitti flash by as Weldon exits the pits and gets up to speed.
And that's the area as you're hustling the car out on the flat there out of 1 and 2. You're on cold tires. The pressures aren't up, but you got to keep challenging the car. You can't give anything away as you're on that flat, merging up onto the racetrack.
Franchitti has 1 lap at hand. Rafael Matos getting his service, but the previous stop, Franchitti pitted on lap 102, Dixon on 101. So theoretically, Dixon should be in first. Speak of the devil.
He is on the inroad.
Oh, so's Dario.
Oh, they'll come in together. Wow.
And this will be a side-by-side, mano-a-mano opportunity for the 2 Target Chip Ganassi teams. Graham Rahal is yet to pit, will streak by and take the lead as these 2 cars come in tandem. The first one to hit his marks will be Scott Dixon. Directly in front of him will be Dario Franchitti. The tires are off, the fuel going in, and there is a yellow out. A yellow out. Both cars are away, a drag race down to turn 1 under the pace car. I don't know, from my position, guys, it looks like Dixon got it.
He sure did. Dixon definitely beat him to the line.
But Ryan Hunter-Ray has crashed big time. We saw him pit just a few moments ago. And up at the exit of turn number 4, the Delphi safety crew arrives on the scene. There is Rahal, who's now shown as the leader of the race. Ryan still in the cockpit. See if we can determine what happened. Sent Ryan hard into the wall in turn 4.
He had come in on lap, what was it, 152. So he'd already been out long enough to build temperature and pressure to the car.
On his own. Heavy impact, a little bit farther around the corner than what we saw Hideki Muto.
And again, thank goodness for the safer barrier.
Yeah, pretty good shot going backwards. So there's good sign.
Oh, yeah, good. He's getting out and walking on his own.
But as I was saying, he'd been out enough to get some pressure, temperatures up in that car. Obviously, you know, coming off of 4, I've said it a bunch so far. This is a challenging track. You're coming off of 4. You're wanting to get back to full throttle, and sometimes you just lose the balance in the car where it doesn't take it.
Graham Rahal is shown as the leader of the race. Oriol Servia second. Danica's running third. Then Marias, Andretti, Dixon, Franchitti, Weldon, Castroneves, and Matos. And Dixon has clinched the 2 bonus points for leading the most laps.
It's worth noting that Rahal, Servia, Patrick, Marias, and Andretti will all have to come on to pit road.
And they are, as you're saying that, there
so
they
that
come.
will put Dixon and Franchitti back up to the lead. They were given the same kind of gift that Briscoe had, and they took advantage of it.
Now Graham Rahal and Oriol Servia, their teammates, they have come on to pit road. Now watch, they're both going to what we call short fill. Once the tires are done, they're going to pull this thing out and send them on out. So far, right behind me. Servia trying to get by Rahal, gooses it a little bit, but to no avail. Mario Marias also completing his last stop as well.
And you saw Rahal beat his teammate Servia to that line just by a nose. That's his position now.
Dan Weldon's car is behind the pace car. Or is he? He shouldn't be.
No. Not sure how he got there.
So what they will do is they'll
waved around.
Weldon around, then they'll come back and pick up Dixon,
Scott.
Franchitti.
Yeah. Right.
So he'll just come around on that.
Yep.
So 1 cycle of pits, then the rest who are a lap down get waved around.
35 laps to the completion of the Indy Japan 300 from Twin Ring Motegi. Dixon leads Franchitti. The NHL is back on Versus with an opening night doubleheader. Expectations are high for the Caps as they battle the Bruins. And then the new-look Sharks are primed to rebound from last year's early playoff exit against the Avalanche. The NHL season opener is on Versus October the 1st. Under caution here at Twin Ring Motegi because of an accident involving Ryan Hunter-Reay. And here is what has put Dixon in the lead.
Great pit work. Of course, he came into pit lane ahead, so it was maintaining position for him. The pressure was on the crew. There's no higher pressure on crews when it comes down to final pit stops, championship races. Your heart is just pounding in your chest.
And it really helps when your driver comes in that pit box and hits his marks.
And doesn't spin on the way out.
While we have an opportunity here, let us give you the news that Versus has signed a multi-year deal with NASCAR to highlight the 12 drivers competing in NASCAR's 10-race chase for the Sprint Cup. The weekly half-hour series titled Quest for the NASCAR Cup will air on Versus Tuesday nights at 11 o'clock Eastern Time beginning on September 22nd. So congratulations to Versus, and as we will now have a role in the NASCAR series. All right, we'll take a break and be right back with the resumption of this race with Dixon, Franchitti, and Briscoe. Well, the championship will definitely go to the last race at Homestead Miami Speedway, because here in the Indy Japan 300 at Twin Ring Motegi, it's been a bad night for Ryan Briscoe, who hit the fence coming off of pit lane and is back in 19th position, 15 laps down, and he has fallen from first to third in the point standings. Dixon is the points leader as they run with Franchitti second, 5 behind. All right, Dan Weldon's been given the wave around the pace car.
And he will go into 8th position. You may be saying, well, hang on a minute. He was running like 3rd or 4th, but he pitted under green. along with some of these other cars right behind him. When you pit under yellow and not under green, it saves you about 30 seconds of track position. So it is a penalty to pit under green. All the cars in front of him pitted under yellow. That's a big bonus.
And the pace car will pick up the leader of the race, who is Scott Dixon, and everybody between the pace car and Scott Dixon gets the wave around.
And that falls into the category of just a little bit of luck.
Yep.
Every once in a while.
Hey, but you know what? Luck treated all 3 of the championship contenders the same. Yes. All 3 of them got on the pit road just as the yellow came out. 2 of them took advantage of it. 1 of them hit the wall.
And we don't see that much.
No,
it's amazing that it's happened to those 3 guys, all championship contenders in this one race. Really is.
All right, Dixon cleans the tires as he approaches turn number 3. Less than 30 laps to go in this one. And there will not be a start. Yellow remains out.
Premature acceleration there, maybe?
You notice that Rahaal's the 5th car back there in line. You got Koski and Ed Carpenter that are in there some laps down. So he's the guy that really wants to time this restart just perfectly. And remember, soon as the green flag comes out, you can get after it and pass whoever you want. You don't have to wait till you come back to the start finish like you do at the start of the race on the original green flag.
Good run for NHL Newman Haas Lanigan. Drivers running in 3rd and 4th. Now we'll see if they get the green.
Yeah, you saw Ed Carpenter kind of run along Koski and say, go. Now's the time to go.
And the Apex Brazil Experience Our Energy green flag does come out now, and here we go.
Look at the gap.
Look at Carpenter. He'll look to the inside of Koski.
Yeah, Rahaal now needs to time this. His teammate Serbia has gone to his overtake.
Oh, and that's why. Here he comes.
No, has he got it?
I guess so.
Wow. He got a major chop job there.
He did, but that again, the entry of that corner is so fast. You really got to be fully alongside the guy to make the pass, even though he had a little bit ahead. So that was a smart thing to do, and not take him and his teammate out.
That was the old hi-ya. Take that.
And what does that mean in Japanese?
Slam the door.
And look at there. Marias by Serbia going into 3.
And that's for position. Marias is now 4th. Don't count him out.
Yeah, we're all like, oh, poor old Mario Marias. You know, boy, everything, boy, it's come back together.
Let's watch Marias, see if he can close in on Graham. Marias on his button again. He's got 7 overtakes left. So when he comes off of turn 4, is he going to close a little bit? No, he's got to worry about protecting his position right now.
Yeah, I think Serbia's got him.
Yes, he does.
Wow, how about that?
Now, Ariel Serbia was warned on the previous lap by race control saying, please drive straight.
And we just had a new fastest lap of the race turn by the leader.
Look at Marias is going to take him back into 3. No, he's not.
Another hi-ya.
Mouche, mouche. That's great stuff, challenging each other like that. When you have the overtaking car and the guy that he's trying to overtake runs it in that deep and that hard into 3. But this is game time right now. There's no more pit stops. If you have an opportunity.
He went back to that front bar, Robbie.
You know, now he's using it. The one time I want to talk about it, we get on board, he doesn't use it. But again, it comes back to how hard these guys are working in the cockpit. You're always doing everything you can with your adjustments. Forget about what your racecraft is and what your style is and how you lift off the gas and get back to the brake. I mean, all those things balance the race car.
Back to the championship. So many people have said that you want to be the huntee and not the hunted. now the championship dynamic has flipped once again. Assuming as they run, they finish in this way. So going into Homestead, do you really want to be the driver with the lead?
I'm not sure that we mentioned that Mike Conway is okay. He is spending a few minutes in the infield care center to ice down his right foot. And Ryan Hunter-Reay has a minor abrasion on his right knee, but otherwise he is okay.
And where you get that on your knee for Ryan Hunter-Reay, when he backed it in, just the force of backing it in there, your knees just lift up in the cockpit and they just kind of get, you know, right where the dashboard sits. That's just a structure member inside the cockpit, that bulkhead, and that's what you whack your knees against.
Target Chip Ganassi Racing has finished first and second 5 times. The most recent being at Richmond when Dixon and Franchitti finished 1-2 as they are running right now. 20 laps to go.
There's no fuel concerns. The reason we saw the fastest lap of the race recently is they can run whatever fuel they want. They can stand on it. They can just try and maintain the distance. And this is just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, and Franchitti's got 3 seconds back to Ray Hall. And I think that's our battle. It's really going to be interesting is what's going to happen between Ray Hall, Servia, and Moraes. I think that's going to be interesting to see how those guys shake out.
And Weldon would like to pass Andretti to pick up 7th position, but cannot do it. But all in all, a good run for Dan Weldon and for Marco Andretti for that matter. The inside of Castroneves, who is 10th, not on the lead lap.
Marco is on his overtake button, so he knows Weldon's right there breathing down his neck.
Going to take one more break before the checkered flag drops. Stay with us for more live coverage of the Indy Japan 300 on Versus. The winner of the Peak Performance Award yesterday in qualifying was Scott Dixon, and he is leading the race here with 11 laps to go. May move Target Chip Ganassi Racing up another notch if Scott or Dario can win, giving him 33 victories in the series.
Just amazing how some weekends can go so great. And you think about Scott Dixon, wasn't that long ago in Sonoma, where the entire race just came off the tracks, just horrendous.
Yeah.
Thought his championship hopes maybe were over, and now look at this.
Yes.
He's right back after.
When the dominoes fall against you, they just keep falling against you. When they go in the direction for you, they keep falling that way too. It really is amazing sometimes how that plays out.
Who would have thought, though, that this evening would have turned out the way it has with Ryan Briscoe? It's just hard to believe.
Still kind of in shock with that whole thing.
Yeah.
Ever since that moment, it's just kind of like, did that really happen?
Yeah.
You know, the flip side is you could not write a better script.
That's right.
The person who was third in the championship apparently is going to go on to win. The person who was second in the championship is going to finish second, and the person who was third is out of the points. So.
Well, and that's what makes it fun. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. If you knew what was going to happen and how you script it, well then that'd be boring. I'm not sure Ryan Briscoe thinks that same thing.
Guys, remember earlier in the qualifying show, we heard Dario Franchitti, Dixie's teammate, say, well, Dixon's been eating and he's hungry. Well, you could tell right from the time that everybody got here to Japan that was the case. I had the opportunity to talk to him just before the start of the race, and he said the one thing about Motegi is it's such a narrow margin of error, and we certainly have seen that throughout the course of the day. He said, forget about making fuel. It's about making every corner count and every corner be perfect. that has been, in essence, one of the reasons why he has found himself in the lead over his teammate. And it looks like Scott Dixon, barring anything unforeseen, will have to pay for the beers tonight here in Motegi.
And that, just what Jack said, is he's got to make every corner work. He's got to hit his marks, be smooth. You can't miss anything. You want to be right on top of everything out there.
This battle rages on between Weldon and Andretti. Again, this is for 7th.
He just burned an overtake assist there.
Danica's running right ahead of Marco in 6th.
He had a great run, and he hoped to finish it off with the overtake assist, but timing wasn't quite there.
Marco with a little bit of a run on Danica. We're looking back off her car right there.
And Marco was on the overtake assist. He saw an opportunity.
Yep. But again, he ate it up because it didn't work. He didn't finish the pass, and it's going to come off that overtake button by the time they get back down that front straight.
He only has 2 left. Danica has none left.
And look at Weldon. Weldon's right back. And right back behind him. And
Weldon has 1, and that's his last one. Dan Weldon's just hit the button for the last time,
and
folks.
And you know what? You go for that button and you want it just to give you that little extra boost, which it does, but it wasn't enough to get alongside Marco into 3.
2 laps to go.
So Dixon's got 1.5 seconds on Franchitti.
What a day for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. Everything has fallen their way, and they took advantage of a couple lucky breaks.
Yeah, they were still dominant.
Yeah, but everything went their way.
Oh, sure.
Here is Scott Dixon getting the white flag. He's on the last lap of the race. Still with a little more than a second advantage on his teammate, Dario Franchitti. There's the interval between 1st and 2nd.
And this is a weekend of maximum points right here. Pole, laps, the whole deal.
53 points. Scott Dixon, his 5th win of the season. More importantly, this topsy-turvy points race has turned upside down as we head to Miami to settle the 2009 IndyCar Championship. Dario Franchitti finishes 2nd. Rahal, Servia, Marias, Danica Patrick comes home in 6th spot. And just as important as the win for Dixon, it gives him the tiebreaker with 5 wins. Dario has 4.
Wow. Well, it makes it a very pleasurable experience, packing up the equipment, taking a 14-hour flight back home. That's the way you want to do it.
Yeah, but can you wait for Homestead? Man, that's going to be cool.
I don't think we sitting right here, we thought we were going to go to Homestead in this type of shootout.
I don't
did
either.
You?
Nope.
I didn't see it.
Not in the wildest dream did I think that this would happen. Dixon rolls into victory lane. We'll talk with him when we come back. He's the winner of the Indy Japan 300. The smile on Scott Dixon's face. How about this? He wins here in Japan, the eyes on victory lane down to Jackaroo.
And Scott Dixon starts to get out of the Target Chip Ganassi car. His 5th victory, as you said. Halfway across the world, Scott Dixon gets the applause from the land of the rising sun. And, you know, your teammate said you've been hungry and eating a lot, and you got the most number of points possible, 53, and catapult yourself into 1st.
Definitely what we needed. You know, we needed to have a few problems on the Penske side, and that was definitely true today. But Dario was definitely quick early on. We had to make some fairly good changes to our car and traffic, and
like what sort of changes, Scott?
We had to put some, obviously, some front wing in the car, a lot of understeer, and we had to change some tire pressures. And I got to say hello to my wife. who's obviously back in England. Hello, Emma and her family. Love you, and Poppy, of course. So, but tremendous day for Team Target. I think we vaulted straight, both of us back up there, and that's what we needed.
Now, let's talk a little bit about you go into the final race of the season, and you are the hunted. You've been in both positions. Which do you prefer?
I don't really care. As long as we come out on top, you know, either Dario or myself with the championship, you know, that's what we're really pushing for. So if we can pull that out of Homestead, that's definitely what we want.
And meanwhile, Dario Franchitti has come in to congratulate the guy that he is chasing for the championship and his teammate. So Dario, how come you couldn't catch him today? Turn around.
Well,
there.
I think it really was who was in front was quicker. We managed to go one lap longer and got in the lead, but then I was passing the 2 car and he pushed me up into the grey, and I almost went off, and Scotty got a run on me, and that was it. Whichever one of us was in front had the advantage. But great team effort today from the Target team. You know, to finish 1-2 is good. I prefer it was us, but you know, as I say, Dixie and the guys did a great job, and I have to say thank you to my guys, because that was they were perfect today.
All right, now before the start of the race, when I talked to the two of you, you said it was going to be time to bang back some beers. My question is, who's paying?
Dixie's paying. He got the bigger prize money check today, so Dixie is paying for the beer tonight. I want to say hi to my wife at home. She didn't come out to this one, but oh, and Mum and Dad is too. My dad's normally at all the races, but yeah, as I say, great day, and I wish it could have been one better.
Bob, I think, as you know, the beers around here cost about 97 yen.
That much, huh? This is Scott's 22nd win in Major American Open Wheel Racing, tying him for 14th place in a tie with Emerson Fittipaldi, Dario, and Elio. And Dixon also is our Firestone pit performer of the day. His team had him on pit lane the least amount of time. Back in a moment. Here's a tip of the hat to the winning team for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. And while we're talking about Ganassi Racing, good luck to Juan Pablo Montoya, who Sunday will lead the field to the green flag in the first race for the Cup in New Hampshire. Tonight, Scott Dixon wins here at Motegi, down to Jackaroo.
And Graham Rahal, as we said, liked his car, not off the trailer, but right off the 747. But during the course of the race, you had a little bit of a radio problem, Graham.
Yeah, we pretty much the entire race couldn't hear anybody in the pits. And unfortunately, you know, you have to be pretty quiet about that while you're out on the track, because otherwise they can black flag you. So we were trying to be pretty hush-hush. But, you know, I mean, I was just waiting for the little alarm on my dash to come up and say pit now, basically. And we were lucky that yellow came out, kind of put us out of sync. But McDonald's boys did a great job. I mean, I think, you know, the way we came here, I mean, Martin Paré, my engineer, got to give him a lot of the credit, because obviously he's got a lot of experience, and bringing him over to the McDonald's team has helped us a lot throughout the whole year. But he did win this race last year with Danica, so the car was awfully good.
Stitched together another podium finish. How do you assess the end of the season versus the beginning of the season for McDonald's and Rahal Letterman?
Well,
Rahal Letterman for Newman House Lanigan.
Well, I think I must say that I think I wish we would have started. Well, we started kind of in this pattern. In the middle of the season, we started to struggle a little bit. We weren't getting the results we needed, and now we're ending strong. And we head off to Homestead, another place where we ought to be very good. And we're gaining points. We're 7th in points now, but we're not far from 5th. And that's the goal. If we would have started this charge earlier in the year, we would have been 5th, if not 4th now. So the McDonald's car has been kind of right up there in the top 5 all year long, and you know, we're knocking on the door. We're going to win one of these days.
And you can rest assured that when he knocks on the door, he'll bust it down sooner or later, Bob.
Rahal finishes 3rd, Servia in 4th. Here are the points. 8 separate the top 3, but believe it or not, it's not the closest three-way battle for the championship going into the last race. In 2003, the top 3 were separated by just 7 points. Nevertheless, it's going to be fun at Homestead Miami Speedway in 3 weeks. Back down to Jack.
Very difficult day for Ryan Briscoe. You start at the top of the points, and now you find yourself back in 3rd. I want to go back to that pit stop. Take me through what happened from the time the pit stop was over to the time you encountered the concrete wall, Ryan.
Yeah, I think I'd played it perfectly. You know, we were saving fuel and went a lap further than the Ganassi guys, 1 or 2 laps further. And the yellow came out, we were in pit lane, and I knew it was a huge opportunity to have the lead of the race, and you know, as I left the pits, you know, it sounded like from Roger that I was going to be racing Scott to the blend line, and I just gave her a bit too much throttle. As I transitioned onto the tarmac, it's just spun me around and caught me by surprise. I mean, there are no excuses. I just had a bit too much throttle, but fortunately I had a points lead coming into here. We're not coming out of this too badly. It's only 8 points, and all it takes is to win Homestead, and it should be enough to win the championship, so I'm already pumped up about it.
I was going to say, is it that difficult to wash this away and really just focus over the course of the next 22 days about the task at hand down in Homestead, Florida? Yeah,
I mean, I'm a bit, you know, I'm very frustrated right now with myself. I mean, there's no one to blame with myself here, but I'm already looking towards Homestead, and I'm pretty excited that it's only 8 points, because after a mistake like that, it probably should be more, but it certainly gives me a chance in Homestead to redeem myself, go strong there, and we're certainly in a very good position to win the championship still. So that's going to be my focus for the next couple of weeks, going there.
Guys, the one thing, sometimes time does heal all wounds. Getting those extra 20 or so days for Ryan Briscoe could be the difference maker. As he said, he's not that far behind.
No, that's true. Only 8 points. And let's take a look at how the 3 title contenders have fared at Homestead, Miami. Ryan Briscoe finished 19th last year. Dixon was the winner, and Franchitti finished in 7th spot in 2007, his last time at Homestead, Miami. Of course, he ran NASCAR last year. We'll be back with more post-race activity from Twin Ring Motegi. Scott Dixon wins the Indy Japan 300. Well, the drivers took a lap around the racetrack before the race began, and they're doing so now. At least the podium finishers. Scott Dixon there is the winner of the race. Behind him, second place Dario, and third place Graham Rahal. Oriol Servia equals his best finish in the IndyCar Series. 4th, Jack.
And Bob, one of the things that Oriol Servia likes and dislikes about this racetrack is, yes, you finish well, but it's a one-groove racetrack, and you say that that's something you wish there was a way to change.
Absolutely, it's a great design. I love this oval. I loved it the first time I came here, and it's very smart. It has nice banking in both ends. There are different corners. The driver has to drive it. The car has to be a good car. So it's great. The only problem is we only run here once a year, as you were saying, and you know, the outside line is completely dirty. So every time you try to pass somebody, you actually end up losing a spot. So it's just a shame. I think maybe we should come and do some fun racing without points the weekend before or something, so we get some rubber out there. But I'm extremely happy. I want to thank Bernie, Carl Haas, and Mike Lanigan for giving me this chance. Every race we've been getting better and better. We are 4th. We were just behind Ganassi. 3rd and 4th, second best team out there, so I'm extremely pleased, very happy, and I hope we keep the momentum going and we're able to do good things. I think we could contend for a championship if we would start the season together, so that's what I'm hoping.
Hey, Bob, keep an eye on this team because they're beginning to show some muscle. Even though there's one race left to go, they could flex it down at Homestead.
Nice job, Jack, and we say hello to our other pit reporters who did not make the trip to Japan, namely Lindy Thaxton and Robbie Floyd. Here are the final results. There were 9 cars on the lead lap at the end of the race, and Mario Moraes finished 5th and recorded his 3rd straight top 5 finish.
Dixon, I mean, what do you say about that? He set the tone by being on the pole, led the most laps, got those points, was Firestone Pit Performer of the weekend. Pretty darn good.
I love Briscoe's attitude, though. He's managed to shake it off, at least for the interview, and he knows with 8 points that he's still definitely in the running in Homestead, and he can redeem himself.
Not only did Ryan have a smile on his face when he did the interview, but he came to Jack. Jack didn't go to him, so again, thanks, Ryan, for being the gentleman race driver that you are. Team Penske leads in most wins by team in the IndyCar Series at 35. Andretti Green Racing at 34, and now Target Chip Ganassi Racing has 33. Panther driver Dan Weldon finished tonight in 8th, but had a good run and ran for in 3rd position for quite a bit of the race. So guys, we wait for Homestead, Miami, and what a weekend it's going to be.
And Briscoe, he says I should have been penalized more for what I did, but he knows if he goes to Homestead and he can win, this championship still can be him, and he can redeem himself to his crew guys, as he said.
It may even come, Robbie, it might even come down to bonus points. It could be that close.
Yep.
Man, it's going to be, you couldn't ask for a better intro to the final race of the year.
And we hope all of you in the South Florida area and vicinity will come and see us for the finale. Well, coming up next here on Versus, the best and the worst of Tread Barta. Join us in 3 weeks for the Firestone Indy 300 at Homestead, Saturday, October 10th at 4 o'clock Eastern. You can find IZOD at your local Macy's. For more information on IndyCar, log on to Versus.com. Congratulations to Scott Dixon, the winner of the Indy Japan 300. Now our focus shifts to 21 days ahead at Homestead Miami Speedway on October 10th for the IndyCar Race to the Championship. It'll be a classic Penske versus Ganassi shootout only on Versus. For Robbie Buell, Jan Beekes, and Jack Arute, I'm Bob Jenkins. Sayonara from Motegi, Japan.